Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another edition of the Tech Talks Daily podcast. And today I've got an incredibly exciting episode as we're going to dive into the world of the creator economy and Web3. How are those worlds colliding? Well, our guest today, Matveev, is the Chief Strategy Officer at Calaxy, which is a next-generation social marketplace that's on a mission to revolutionize the creator-fan relationship. And all this comes at a time where the market for the creator economy is expected to reach around $75 billion by 2024. And that was in, I think it was Citibank's Global Perspectives and Solutions report. And let's face it, 2024, we're talking 6 months away. And this burgeoning economy, powered by NFTs, is poised to transform not only traditional commerce, but also how creators engage with their fans. And Rusty brings a wealth of experience to the table with over 15 years in the emerging tech and startup space and a track record as a venture capitalist at MSG Ventures. And at Calaxy, though, he's part of the team that's offering creators a direct way to engage with their fans, free from the shackles of centralized social media conglomerates which we all know about. It's time for something different. So today we're going to explore the recent surge in investment into the creator economy, what this means for fans, what this means for creators, and as Web3 begins to take shape, how this shift could change the dynamics in the creator commerce. We've got a lot to cover, so buckle up and hold on tight, because no matter where you're listening, I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Boston, where Rusty is waiting to talk with us today. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Rusty. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. So my name is Rusty Matveev. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of Calaxy, which is the open social marketplace. We'll talk about that in a minute. By sort of background, I've always been an entrepreneur and founder and also a venture investor. I've been investing since 2016. I've been a founder for much longer than that. So yeah, excited to chat more and unpack and chat today.
Yeah, me too. It's such an exciting space right now, and I know a lot of people find it overwhelming. So I'd love to maybe just to set the scene for our conversation. Can I ask that you elaborate on the current surge of investment in the creator economy and what that implies for the future of the sector, and how you're seeing a shift in the power of dynamics in creator commerce too, because there's a lot going on, isn't there?
Yeah, great question. And there definitely is a lot going on. And there's been quite an evolution over the last handful of years, and even just like sort of right now at this point in time. So I mean, I definitely see a lot of investment going into the space, a lot of interest, just generally speaking. I think people are looking at what is the next inflection point or disruption for how. It's funny because it depends on whose perspective it is, but for how, either for how creators get paid, for how, engagement occurs between a community and their creator and so on. And so I think, with things like, looking back a few years, things like Clubhouse having its like sort of like surge and pop, now kind of looking at groups like ourselves and even, what's going on with Twitter, I think that there's a lot that's sort of like left on the table, like left on the bone, if you will. And where that goes, and I think you said it well with the dynamic shift of the power is, again, depending on whose perspective it is. If you're like a legacy, if you're Instagram, right, if you're a legacy social media platform, you definitely have different incentives and different sort of goals than if I'm, whether if I'm, an up and coming creator or someone, like a Kylie Jenner that has tens and hundreds of millions of followers. But either way, I think the dynamic is shifting towards a lot more control, power, and quite frankly, a lot more of the cut, right? So a lot more monetization to the creator, rightfully so, right? Content is king. And without that creator, these platforms sort of don't matter. And I think that's probably the bottom line.
And I'm curious, NFT is another huge topic right now. So how are you seeing the advent of NFT-powered commerce? How's that transforming the traditional commerce sector? And are there a few examples that you can share just to bring to life what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, again, great question. Nascent, right? I think it's early days in this space. While there's definitely been a surge of NFTs and that whole 6 months ago to a year ago plus, where it seemed like everyone and anyone was creating NFTs and selling them for 6 and 7 figures. That's a little bit behind us at the moment, and not to say that it's not going to come back. But I think it's more about the function and the what of the NFT aspect. Like, sure, there's always going to be a place for art. That was the natural home and starting point, right? The authenticity aspect, the proof of purchase, again, very basic stuff. There's a lot more intricacies that actually matter there. But I think all of that shifts to really utility-driven NFTs, right? So something that we're doing at Calaxy too. Right now, there's a big focus of stuff going on kind of under the hood for us. Again, we'll get into that a little later. But overall in the market, I think like those rug pull risk days or just having some celebrity associated with an NFT, it's not that they're behind us. I'd love to say that they're behind us. I'd love for people to be more careful. I think both sides of the market are got hit with that. Even like certain creators that associated or promoted certain NFTs or even crypto got, sort of slapped on the wrist or sort of berated by their own communities. Now, moving into the future, can we see something that has a lot more function rather than just, flash or hype? Real live examples, a little bit tougher, at least with what I'm talking about. I think it's just early, but I can give an example of where, for example, on Calaxy, our aspect of what NFTs are going to do, again, we put them under the hood, but what they're going to do is almost like give you a voucher on time or a value of time for a creator. So like if I buy some kind of interaction or engagement with a creator, I'm really actually buying an NFT that then I'll be able to utilize. I don't have to think of it that way because we're focusing on a lot of Web2 users or people that are going to sort of convert. So for us, it's not so much about the technical detail of the NFT. It's more about what it can do for you, which in our case is it gives you access to the creators. We see use cases like ticketing as well. It's very basic and easy, right? So the idea of you have to be part of a club or have an NFT to then enter an event or enter a podcast or enter, a clubhouse room or whatever. So I think it's going to be utility driven more than anything else.
And this feels like a great opportunity to introduce everyone listening to Calaxy. So for people hearing about it for the first time, how would you describe Calaxy and the problems that you set out to solve them? I'm sure this is a question you get asked a lot, right?
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity for this question. Yes, we do. And again, it's one of those things where there's a lot of perspectives, right? Multi-sided marketplace. We are an interesting hybrid of a social platform combined with a marketplace, and I would call it an experiential marketplace. So for your listeners, if you've heard of things like Cameo or Patreon or of course Instagram and those types of platforms, we kind of bring all of that together and allow creators to kind of bring their world to have their own Calaxy in one place. And so a creator can, no longer has to be siloed by having, their Instagram presence here and their Cameo videos here and so on and so forth. We allow them to kind of do all that in one place and even have custom tooling. So the idea is a creator would have essentially their own storefront or their own shop. It doesn't look like a storefront necessarily. It's almost like a hidden version of that, right? It feels like a social media page, but on that social media page, which we're all used to, right? The Instagram and Twitter feel. On that page, there's experiences that I can engage with. I can, again, book a video call. I can get a video message. I can have, depending on the creator, I can go and meet them in real life if that's an option, right? I can have a call. I can, there's just unlimited things I can do. And that's kind of the idea of what Calaxy is looking to do is empower creators to professionalize content creation and the world of being a creator. One of the most common threads and something that's kind of unique to us is our two co-founders, one being Solo Cisse, who's our CEO, the other being Spencer Dinwiddie, who's our co-founder and chairman. He's an NBA player currently on the Brooklyn Nets. And we had so much firsthand feedback and insight to so many creators that will have, 500,000, 5 million followers, but they still struggle to pay the rent, even though they have this followership. And so we're looking to, that's the challenge that we're looking to solve. Of course, we'll, empower the tier ones and sort of like the established creators of the world as well. But all these up and coming ones and all these people that are, looking to make a name for themselves and more importantly, to make a living for themselves, or equally more importantly, to make a living for themselves, that's what Calaxy is here for, to help solve that specific problem.
And I've got to ask, the name, where did that come from? Is it allowing users to create an almost creative galaxy, or is it something else?
Yeah, I'm gonna give that that call out to Spencer when we were looking through the names. Essentially, it's a combination of creators in Galaxy, so Calaxy, a creator galaxy. So it's a little clever at the same time. We'd like to think that it's gonna join the vernacular of of the social world hopefully soon. But yeah, it's really just the combination of creators and Galaxy, creator galaxy.
And we've talked about the dark side of NFTs and some celebrities backing, let's say, shady projects. But on a more positive side of things, how is this new NFT-powered economy changing the way that celebrities, musicians, etc., and influencers as well? How they engage with their fans? How does Calaxy fit into this?
Yeah, again, good question. Quite frankly, depending on which world you're looking at, meaning like sort of the Web3, crypto natives versus, and there's, there is an entire world of creators and sort of, I'm not going to call them celebrities, but creator life on that side of the world versus the traditional, whether it's musicians, reality stars, athletes, et cetera, right? The sort of Web2 side. Quite frankly, the Web2 side doesn't really know or probably care too much about NFTs or about crypto yet, right? Some of them do a little bit, but it's kind of gaining. And so part of our job and our challenge is a little bit of the education aspect and kind of opening their eyes, not so much just to like nothing really on the technical side, but just to the potential benefits and utility for both themselves and their communities. So that's definitely like on that list. Otherwise, it looks like, the things that we're in the crypto world used to, right? It's the timing and the transparency. All those types of things are part of the benefit. Plus, it's kind of cutting out middlemen, right? It's almost, the idea of what the smart contract does for them or whatever the utility that we built into these various, experiences or NFTs are, that's the benefit for them, right? They get this aspect of like, if I have a fan club, all those people in the fan club are, me as a creator, they're mine to engage with. Mine is kind of an awkward word to say here, but essentially the data is theirs, right? Like it's their community, to the point where in the future, if they want to just live on their own website and never come to Calaxy or never be on any social platform, they still have access to that data in that world. And I think that is a unique thing on its own right. And then I think, so the bottom line is the bottom line, meaning how much are you taking from my pockets, right? So I think that's the other challenge here and the opportunity is giving creators a way more direct access and control to their cut of the experience. Like we shouldn't be taking, a third or half or whatever all these stories you hear that other platforms sometimes take. We're not looking to do that. And we're building towards, while Calaxy Inc. is a centralized company, of course, is a US company, we're building towards more of a decentralized narrative where essentially the creators own this platform in the future, or at least partially own this platform, so they could start setting the rules or voting on rules and that kind of stuff. And we're very creator-centric, I think, more than any other company I've ever, either started or been with. And I think that's a superpower, right? So we focus on that first versus not that we don't focus on users. I think as people see the user experiences was first in mind and in heart, it's beautiful. Like, the application should be very intuitive and native. But we thought that solving from the creator's perspective first made a lot of sense, because then it trickles down to their individual communities.
As a next generation social marketplace, is there anything else you can share around how Calaxy is seeking to reinvent that creator-fan relationship? And also, what makes it different from other platforms in this space, would you say? Yeah,
absolutely. I think, the first part of your question, it's funny because it still, in my mind, defaults back to, yes, we're giving tools to them, but it defaults back to the what or the content that the creator is offering. So, we just give them a unique way to be able to execute this offering, right? So one example is we happen to have a up and coming celebrity chef on our platform, right? That's, he has visions, and his name is Chef Hoppy, so we'll give him that shout out. He happens to cook for a lot of Dallas Cowboys, and he's again a celebrity chef. So he wants to do one-on-one cooking lessons. He wants to do like video calls with cooking lessons. He wants to do like corporate events and so on and so forth, nutritional stuff. And so we're allowing him to deliver through his own mind, essentially, but allowing him to deliver various experiences, because we have some custom features that we allow creators to sort of tap into and almost like white label anything, right? So if you wanted to have Shark Tank pitch me, or be a guest on my podcast, that's a feature you're offering. You can do that in any way you like. And so I think that's definitely one of our special powers, is kind of the custom flexibility of offerings. We're not just giving you like a preset, hey, we're a video call company, do video calls. I mean, yeah, we can do that too. But on top of that, you want to just do chats or DMs, you want to do audio, you want to do it in real life, you can do whatever you want. So I think that's special. And then the last part of the question, I mean, our unique initial advantage, just quite frankly, we've just been very fortunate. It was really our network initially. We haven't had to pay to play with creators, which I think any other group would. Even myself, if it was myself or any other employee in the company that was starting this idea, same vision, it wouldn't work the same, because we don't have the first degree nature of relationships with the creators that our two co-founders do, which has given us so much, invaluable insight that, I really cannot put a value to, because it just gives you that perspective that otherwise you would not have.
And one of the things I always try and do on this Daily Tech podcast is take a little peek into the guest's past and their origin story and how that's helped shape where they got to today. When I was doing a little research on you, I learned that you, in a former life, you had a bit of experience around venture capitalists. So I'm curious, how was your experience as a venture capitalist? Has that helped you shape your approach to Calaxy and the creator economy? Is there any synergies there?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you asking. Yeah, I'm still an active investor, both personally as an angel and have syndicates and that kind of stuff, and friendly with lots of funds. So that's definitely part of part of my perspective. Yeah, I'd like to think and say that helped me personally, right, assess the opportunity here and see the merit and the upside and the excitement and the value of the idea in itself, right? I obviously wouldn't be involved in an idea I didn't believe in. And then as far as our fundraise efforts go, for not myself but for the company, that definitely I think landed a great hand in the early days, at least, if not now still, in terms of as we spoke to the investors that did commit or that didn't commit. My perspective was a little unique because I've been on both sides of that line, right? So I think that at the end of the day, execution's everything. So that's great that I have that perspective, but we need to still launch and execute here and prove our assumptions correct and then take it from there. It's kind of how I would say it.
And the creator economy has continued to go from strength to strength. And I'm curious, as the world collide with the creator economy and Web3, how do you see Web3 factoring into the evolution of the creator economy? And are there any unique opportunities and equally maybe a few challenges that it presents too? Is there anything you're seeing around that?
Yeah, I've seen there's so many headlines out there, right? So I've seen a couple of headlines, and even our CEO Solo actually writes quite a bit, and it's published in a few various publications. I think he even wrote something similar, which is Web3 is like what in the future, and one of the lines was like Web3 is invisible, right? Web3 is invisible. We took that to heart years ago, quite frankly, in terms of how we build. We're not I would say our audience and our core demographics are not native Web3 users. In fact, it's so funny to say Web3 versus Web2. Web2 users don't call themselves Web2 users, like they don't know what that necessarily means. And so, I think that there's an evolution from the standpoint of things will be put into the back end of things. Like I think I've mentioned a few times, under the hood. Like we use that term very freely and internally. Is what does that mean? So, our platform is technically driven by NFTs. Essentially, we're built on Hedera, and so there's more technical things to unpack there. But essentially, every experience that you buy, a video call, anything like that, they're actually technically an NFT, like almost like a voucher. But as a fan, you would never have to care or know, like as a user, right? So you would literally come to the website, use your credit card, pay, and that's it, and eventually have your experience just like you would anywhere else. And really, you're participating in a Web3 transaction. And so I think the utility aspect of the empowering of that transaction is great, and that's kind of part of the evolution where you don't need to know what MetaMask is or what a certain crypto is. Even with us, that there's gas fees on the platform, or there's just anything along those lines. You need HBAR or you need CLXY. It doesn't matter because it's all under the hood. You're just paying with your credit card, and then it's all kind of happening for you on the back end. And I think that is the next, at least a bridge step of the evolution. It has to be easy. It has to be intuitive. People can't, especially even on the creator side, if you need a creator to come in and set up a wallet and remember their passphrase, it's just so much trouble for people that are not really dealing with this world on a day-to-day basis. And if you try to set out and force feed this activity or this behavior, it's just not going to work, right? It's not their natural, what they're used to doing. So you have to kind of fit those two things. That's been a great challenge, but again, I think we've been uniquely positioned to attack it and to solve it.
And before you came on the podcast today, I read a great stat, and that was that the market for the creator economy is expected to reach $75 billion by 2024. So as someone right in the heart of this space, I've got to ask, what does that mean for both creators and for fans? And I'll also ask you to take a peek into your virtual crystal ball. Any predictions for the future of the creator economy, especially in relation to Calaxy?
Yeah, it's just the multi-billion dollar question.
Yeah.
So, yes, I've seen lots of predictions, whether it's by 2024 or by 2030, all these numbers. I think, the inertia, the momentum is building towards that for sure. I think it should mean significantly more. I mean, it's rising tide helps everybody, but it should mean significantly more for creators. Not in spite of like a Calaxy or any of the platform. I think, again, we both benefit. Like Calaxy only will earn money and make money if the creators on the platform do that. We're not looking to sell ourselves, not looking to push advertising. Like that's not the core of what we're doing. So it's significantly different. I like to talk about like it's of course anecdotal, but the idea of the thesis of this company in a funny way, the kernel of this company for Calaxy came from our co-founder Spencer, putting a tweet out there saying, "Hey, I'm going to be a free agent next year. What team should I join? Or I'm playing the Lakers tonight. What shoes should I wear?" And it's this little piece of like access, right? It's this democratizing decision making, if you will, or like opening your life as a creator to your community in such a way where the fans are feeling like they're no longer just spectating, they're participating, which is a really unique thing. And I think Web3 technology, and it doesn't have to be in this exact example, but Web3 allows that to happen much more directly and smoothly. And then from the dollar standpoint, I like to always talk, I think I've said this on a previous podcast, where you take like, again, a Kylie or a Kendall Jenner or a Kim Kardashian or a Joe Rogan or someone with that kind of a large audience. And if they start doing that kind of activity, if they care to, a lot of times they purely don't want to, monetize via their fan base, and that's totally understandable and respectable. But the fan base is there and they're willing to support. So if a Joe Rogan said, "Hey, who should be my guest next week?" or whatever, and I don't know that he would ever want to care or do that. Maybe it's something a little bit different than who should be my guest, but just a little example. I can envision a world where these people at that scale can make, $1 million a day from this kind of input, or a week, or, kind of whatever. And I think if you think about those types of numbers and start extrapolating, then I think even this 24 billion, ambitious type of numbers to represent the market, or sorry, 75 billion type of numbers, they don't quite, I don't think they'll even do it justice if the world adopts it. I think adoption, of course, is key. And I think that's something quite daunting to think about, just because I know I'm a fan of, whatever X, Y, and Z creators. If they were out there every day asking questions like this, and I could participate with like $1 or even just my vote, let alone any money, that's a big, that's a huge door that now kind of doesn't really exist to this level of scale.
Wow, it's a powerful moment to end on. And I mentioned a few moments ago about your origin story. And of course, as we come full circle in this interview, none of us are able to achieve any degree of success in our careers without a little help along the way, and especially in the projects that we're working on. So I've got to ask, is there a particular person that you are grateful towards who maybe help you get you where you are or improve what you're doing at Calaxy? All I'm going to ask is, who would you like to thank and why?
Yeah, putting me on the spot there. Now, it's a great question. And it's one of those things where it's like, right, there's not enough time to really list a whole list of people. I think my time at Madison Square Garden Ventures, right, which I was one of the earliest people on that team, and the team didn't exist before I actually joined publicly. They're building a very ambitious project called NFT Sphere. In fact, one's going up in Vegas. I think there's one going up in London, and more to come. And the vision of that project was so grand, right? I think Jim Dolan, the owner of MSG and the Knicks and Rangers, said something like, if it exists, we're not interested. And he drew the circle on a napkin and all this stuff. And like, while that's awesome to say, like the challenge of actually executing on that was pretty phenomenal and awe-inspiring, right? I think the people on that team, there was a couple of people in mind. At one point, my boss, the CTO, at one point the CTO of MSG, Evan Scheckman was one of them, and then my managing partner, Andrew Ripp. Both those guys, I remember coming in the room in the earliest days, we're young and ambitious, we all feel we're smart people, but coming in and all of a sudden feeling very confidently that I'm by far not, nowhere near the smartest person in the room anymore, and in a very good way, right? So like just learning from the technical depth and the vision of those guys, and really a lot more people there than just those two people I called out. But I think that was a great experience to challenge myself to really like see their process and their, how they thought, how they assessed everything. And what that brings to me today, and how I use that both on my venture, investments in terms of just being intellectually curious and also highly skeptical and all that kind of stuff. But even more so with Calaxy, right? Just understanding the dynamics of not just how to build a team or anything like that. Yeah, that's all good and great, but even more so, like, right, how do we sell the vision and not be worried or nervous about the ambition of what we think Calaxy is and will be, right? And just really leaning into that. I think that's something, again, Solo, our CEO at Calaxy, has done such a great job. He's had just no fear, right? He's a first-time founder, no fear about it at all. Just like, dive headfirst. So yeah, I think that's probably where I'm at in terms of like, an on-the-spot question like that, because I don't want to leave anyone out, but that's what came to mind first. And I appreciate it.
No, I love the line you use there about not being the smartest person in the room. There's a great quote around that. If you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, you know? So
Yeah.
I love the story behind that. And for anyone listening, just wanting to find out more information about Calaxy, anything we talked about, maybe join your community, find out more information, where would you point everyone listening to?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, so to check, you can literally just go to Calaxy.com. I think there's a little bit of a wait list. Follow us on Twitter at Calaxy app, and then myself at Rusty Matveev. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot more stuff is coming out in the coming weeks and months. So exciting times.
Well, I always say at the end of every episode that technology works best when it brings people together. And not only are you doing that, but you're also completely reinventing the creator and fan relationship. Love what you're doing. I'd love to stay in touch with you, see how this continues to evolve. But more than anything, just thank you for sharing your story today, Rusty.
I appreciate it so much, Neil. Thank you for having me. And obviously, come to Boston. Love to host you here as well. And looking forward to, touching base in the future after we're live and all that. So again, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
So a huge thank you to Rusty for joining us today and sharing his insights into the thriving creator economy, and also hinting at the transformative potential of NFT-powered commerce. I also enjoyed hearing more about his perspective drawn from experience at Calaxy and as a venture capitalist, and it certainly provided me with a more in-depth understanding in the shifting dynamics within the creator commerce world. So it was also exciting to hear more about his vision for a future where creators can directly engage with their fans and have more control over their work. That's got to be progress, right? I'd love for there to be a better way for me and every single one of you listening out there to communicate more, to take a topic like the one we've discussed today and explore it in greater detail together. And if that's something that interests you, please email me anytime. My door is open to each and every one of you. techblogwriter@outlook.com, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. But that's it for today's episode. So remember, gang, stay curious, stay enthusiastic, and continue to explore the exciting world of technology and explore the art of the possible. But more than anything, thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.